The following is the true story of the murder of Junko Furuta. The story is extremely distressing and personally brought me to tears. Viewer discretion is advised. Junko Furuta was a 17-year-old Japanese high school student who was abducted, sexually assaulted, and tortured over a 40-day period starting on the 25th of November 1988. Her abuse was perpetrated by 4 male teenagers: Hiroshi Miyano, aged 18 years old, Joe Ogura, aged 17, Shinji Minato, aged 16, and Yasushi Watanabe, aged 17. In Japan, the case is known as the concrete-encased high school girl murder case, as her body was discovered inside of a concrete-filled drum. The brutality of the case shocked Japan, and it is said to be the worst case of juvenile criminality in the country's post-war history. Furuta was born on the 18th of January 1971 and grew up in Misato, Saitama Prefecture, where she lived with her parents, older brother and younger brother. At the time of her murder, she was a 17-year-old senior at Yashio Minami High School and worked a part-time job at a plastic molding factory from October 1988 to save up money for a planned graduation trip. Furuta also accepted a job at an electronics retailer, where she planned on working after graduation. Furuta was well liked by her classmates and teachers and had high grades and infrequent absences. According to her friends, she dreamed of becoming an idol singer. The 4 teenagers that took her life had all dropped out of high school in the summer of 1988 and became involved in organized crime as chinpira, low-ranking yakuza. They began using Minato's family home in Adachi, Tokyo as a hangout. Beginning in October, they engaged in various crimes, including theft, purse snatching and car theft, assault and rape. On November 8th, the group abducted a 19-year-old woman in Adachi and gang raped her in a hotel there. On December 27th, during Furuta's confinement, the group abducted another 19-year-old woman in Adachi and gang raped her in a motel. On the evening of November 25th, 1988, Miyano and Minato rode around Misato on their motorcycles with the intention of robbing and raping local women and spotted Furuta, who was on her way home from her part-time job. Acting on Miyano's orders, Minato kicked Furuta off her bicycle and fled the scene. Miyano, under the pretense of witnessing the attack by coincidence, approached Furuta and offered to walk her home. Upon tricking her and gaining her trust, Miyano took Furuta to a nearby warehouse and threatened her, claiming to be a member of the Yakuza and saying that he would spare her only if she followed his orders. That night, Miyano took Furuta by taxi to a hotel in Adachi where he raped her. He later called Minato's house and bragged to Ogura about the rape, after which Ogura told him not to let Furuta leave. In the early morning hours of November the 26th, Miyano took Furuta to a park near the hotel, where Ogura, Minato, and Watanabe were waiting. They told her they knew where she lived and that the Yakuza would kill her family if she attempted to escape. Minato agreed to allow Furuta to be confined in a room on the 2nd floor of his house in Adachi for the purpose of gang raping her. Furuta was held captive for the next 39 days. On November 27th, Furuta's parents contacted the police about her disappearance. To discourage further investigation, the kidnappers forced Furuta to call her mother 3 times to convince her that she'd run away but was safe and staying with friends. When Minato's parents were present at the house where she was being confined, Furuta was forced to act as his girlfriend. The group dropped this pretense when it became clear that Minato's parents would not report them to the police, and they later claimed that they did not intervene because they were afraid of their own son, who had been increasingly violent toward them. On the night of November 28th, Miyano and the others, along with Nakamura and Ohara, gang raped Furuta, after which Miyano shaved her pubic hair with a razor and used a match to burn her genital area. In early December, as punishment for an escape attempt, the group repeatedly punched Furuta in the face, and Miyano burned her ankles with a lighter. They forced Furuta to dance to music while naked, masturbate in front of them, and stand on the balcony in the middle of the night with little clothing. They also inserted objects into her vagina and anus, including a metal rod and a bottle. They forced her to drink large amounts of alcohol, milk and water, smoke 2 cigarettes at once, and inhale paint thinner fumes. In one attack in the middle of the month, Furuta was beaten by the group on the pretext that Miyano had stepped on a puddle of her spilled urine, after which he burned her thighs and hands several times with lighter fluid. From around this time, Furuta, unable to bear the repeated assaults, would sometimes plead to be killed by her captors. On January 4th, 1989, After losing money in a game of mahjong the night before, Miyano decided to take his anger out on Furuta. He ignited a candle and dripped hot wax on her face, placed 2 shortened candles on her eyelids, and forced her to drink her own urine. Furuta was lifted and kicked, fell onto a stereo unit, and began a fit of convulsions. To prevent them from being stained with blood, the group covered their hands in plastic bags before beating her with their fists and an iron exercise ball, and dropped the ball on her abdomen several times. Miyano poured lighter fluid on Furuta and set her on fire. She made weak attempts to put herself out, but eventually stopped moving. The assault lasted for about 2 hours, after which Furuta died at 10 a.m., less than 24 hours after her death. Minato's brother called to tell him that Furuta appeared to be dead. Afraid that their crime would be discovered, the group wrapped Furuta's body in a blanket and placed it in a large travel bag, then put the bag in a metal drum and filled it with wet concrete. At around 8 p.m. on January 5th, the group drove to a vacant lot near a construction site on the island of Wakasu in Koto, Tokyo, and dumped the drum there. In early 1989, Miyano and Ogura were arrested for their kidnapping and gang rape of a 19-year-old woman in December 1988. When police interrogated Miyano, he falsely believed that Ogura had already confessed to Furuta's murder and that the police were aware of his culpability, so he told them where to find her body. The police were initially puzzled by his confession, as they were questioning him about the murder of a different woman and her 7-year-old son, which had occurred 9 days prior to Furuta's abduction, a case that remains unsolved. The drum containing Furuta's body was recovered on March 29th, and she was identified via fingerprints. Minato, Watanabe, Minato's brother, Nakamura, and Ihara were also arrested. The 4 individuals involved in the case received varied sentences reflecting the severity of their actions. Hiroshi Miyano, initially sentenced to 17 years in prison, saw his term extended to 20 years following an appeal. In a bid to mitigate the severity of his punishment, his parents paid 50 million yen, approximately $350,000 at the time, to the victim's family as compensation. Joe Ogura was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison, serving the full 10 years before his release, after which he adopted the name Kamisaku. Similarly, Shinji Minato received a sentence of 5 to 9 years, completing 9 years of imprisonment before being released, only to face arrest again in 2018 for attempted murder. Yasushi Watanabe, originally sentenced to 3 to 4 years, had his sentence extended to 5 to 7 years after an appeal, and he was released after serving the full term of 7 years. Furuta's funeral was held on April 2, 1989. During the ceremony, one of her friends delivered a eulogy written by her high school classmates, which stated, "Junchan, welcome back. I never dreamed we would meet again like this. You were subjected to such cruelty, weren't you? You went through so much, didn't you? I'm upset with myself that I went on living, unaware of what was happening. You were always so gentle and cheerful, Junchan. The happy we made for the cultural festival looked wonderful on you. I'll never forget that. We will absolutely not let Junchan's death be in vain. As we step into adulthood, we'll strive for a world where such heinous crimes no longer exist. We'll do our best, keeping Junchan in our hearts and pushing forward. The principal even brought your diploma. Thanks to this, all 47 of us in class 3 to 8 were able to graduate. Junchan, there's no more pain or suffering now. Rest peacefully. Farewell, Junchan."